Boozed and Confused is a comedy and weird topic podcast. Adult language may be used, probably by me. While our episode topics may be educational in nature, we are not responsible if your children start dropping the F-bomb to their kindergarten class. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Matt.
I'm
not
Carol
Matt.
Ann.
I'm Carol Ann.
What is this? What is going
What is
on?
going on?
I'm so boozed and confused. We keep that.
We're gonna keep that. All right. So I'm Carol Ann,
I'm Matt?
and this is Boozed and Confused. And I promise it's only 12:45 on a Saturday afternoon. We're not fully boozed yet.
Yet.
I am obviously confused.
I'm always kind of confused.
How are we today?
We are great.
Good. Great. Glad.
Good.
Cool. All right. So before we dive into today's topic about cults, just some housekeeping items. We are on all of your favorite social media platforms except for LinkedIn. I'm sorry, LinkedIn fans, but we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email at boozedandconfusedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, please follow us on your platform of choice. And if you really want to support the pod, please leave a rating if you like us. Take a screenshot, send it to us, and we will send you some stickers for free. If you don't like the podcast, now's your time to leave. Thank you for joining.
And don't leave a review.
Don't leave a review.
Didn't we start like our first wave of sending things out?
Yeah, so we did a sticker giveaway on Twitter, and we have some stickers going out. One of them going all the way to Sweden, which is kind of neat.
Hey, Sweden.
Hey, Sweden. All right. What are we talking about today?
Cults.
Are you going first or am I going first?
Ooh. I think, so what, last time it was a coin flip?
Mm-hmm.
I think this time we should roll for it. All right, so let's roll for initiative on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's a natural 20.
All right, well.
Oh, baby. It means I get to decide.
What can I get with an 8?
You can get, you fall down the stairs. Roll again. Try and grab the railing.
18.
All right, you grab the railing. All right, this is going to be a long episode of you falling downstairs if you didn't catch the railing. Yo, natural 20. Why can't I get that when we're actually playing D&D?
That's not important then, like it is now.
So since I'm in charge of this, I'm the captain now. I say, since I have 2, how many do you have?
I have 2.
Okay, well, we're going to go back and forth then.
Okay.
I'm going first.
Okay.
You go second.
Okay.
I go third.
Yep.
You go fourth.
Yep.
No, I go first. You go second and third. I go last.
And you finish it off?
I finish it off because this last one that I have is super weird.
Okay.
But this first one, it's like if you're into feet, you'll be into this cult.
Feet, like the body part.
Like the body part, like that thing that we both kind of hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hate my feet. I hate the idea of my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you are always wearing socks. Like you are never seen without socks on.
Yep.
It's like I'm a never nude, but like socks.
But it's my feet. Yeah.
It's your feet. Yeah. So this one's called Hana Sanpangyo.
Yeah, it just rolls right off the tongue.
Well, it does if you're from Japan.
Okay.
This one's often called the foot reading cult because its founder, Hogen Fukunaga, claimed he could make a diagnosis by examining people's feet. Like, I'm not sure if it's like palm reading, but like foot reading or like smelling them. That'd be real nasty. Just like, let me get a whiff of those toes. What, he was a toe sucker.
That's all right. I think I'm out for this episode.
I love a man who can suck on some toes.
God.
Oh, it's gross. We both just have a huge aversion to feet. But I was trying to keep it light this week.
Yeah, why did we pick this one for the first one?
I'm just trying to keep it light. And this one's pretty quick, and it's a very short-lived one, relatively, in terms of like movements, I guess. So Fukunaga started preaching in 1980. He claimed to be the world's final savior following Jesus Christ and Buddha. At this time, he was 34 years old, and he had about 500 million yen worth of debt. So when you are the savior of the world and you are that heavily in debt, you got to figure something out, I think. So he became a household name throughout many of his publications. He wrote about 70 texts.
Were they all about feet?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I didn't go too in depth because I didn't want to go down that like foot path.
Yeah, because your Amazon search history is going to be really weird, and your Google search history is going to be really weird, and it's just, yeah, you don't need those ad recommendations on Facebook.
I'm just trying to keep FBI guy like not thinking I'm weirder than I actually am.
Oh no, he knows.
What up, FBI
he
guy?
Knows.
So he actually had most of these written by ghostwriters, and in 1987, the sect gained official recognition as a religious corporation. And at one time, this group had about 30,000 members.
Of feet people?
Foot enthusiasts.
This is disgusting and disturbing, and okay, go ahead.
Oh, do you want disturbing? Fukunaga charged $900 for foot readings.
I mean, he had to make up that debt somewhere.
Right. Now, I'm not sure what the US dollar to yen ratio is right now, but $900 is the number I got. Let's go with US dollar for that. That's something that we can understand in our small American brains. In a twist on palm reading, Fukunaga and his many cult leaders, there's more foot people than just him. They would read the soles of other people's feet, and they would tell the victims that...
Victims? Are they victims because they're being scammed?
Exactly. You could argue that someone who's in a cult is kind of a victim, right?
Okay. Yes, I'm on board with this.
So these patients, these victims, I'm just going to go with victims for this one at least. They came for counseling about family problems, physical problems, emotional, mental problems. And these leaders would tell them that their problems would become worse unless they attended the seminars. And these seminars would cost like 2.5 million yen, or if they donated up to 14.3 million yen to the cult.
Is this is individual people? That's the expectation?
Individual people. If you want to get better, you have to come to our seminar where we can make you better. But this price tag was pretty heavy. They would allegedly use shocking and heavy-handed words to shock their patients, to make them more upset or more nervous or more concerned. And they would falsely claim that their diseases could be cured through training at the cult. And so they took tons of money away from them. They were urged to buy like high-priced scrolls and ornaments that were said to ward off evil, cure illnesses, free them from their sins even, and break curses. These kind of things could be argued as being intimidation tactics, because there's often like a threat coming with their recommendation. Like, oh, if you don't do this, then this is going to happen to you. These victims would have to go through sometimes like 5-day-long training seminars. And the cult actually had really nice scenic views at their headquarters because it was right at the foot of Mount Fuji. And the goal of these was to purify the mind and the body. If you wanted to raise your rank in the cult, the leader would set out these extremely strict rules and guidelines. Each branch was given separate goals. And so some of those things would be to like recruit more members, to raise tons of money. And by the end, the cult, to build their new facility, had raised over 600 million yen. And then once they hit that target, Fukunaga would give them an even harder goal to reach.
So basically just moving the goalposts.
It's like, what's that, Cutco Knife Company?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. Mm-hmm. You want to make some money? You got to spend about $300 on these knives, and then you can sell them to your friends and your mom and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like they were probably selling essential oils, I would think, at these seminars.
Yeah.
For sure.
Actually, at these seminars, he would tell the recruits that lying was acceptable to lure in more people to get even more special training.
Okay, so it's for sure a multi-level marketing scheme.
Oh, he's like, when you lie, you're actually using your wisdom to say things, even if they're not true.
Roll for it.
He explained that the lies were acceptable as people would learn reason once they began that special training. So in a sense, like, yeah, you're lying, but is it really, though? I'd say probably, yeah. So the group made up like a manual to help people train other people. Fukunaga is that typical cult leader guy who would use the money to like buy himself like really crazy nice stuff. He was seen to be wearing like $5,000 suits, custom handmade Italian leather shoes. His wife would spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, like US dollar, like I think up to $7,000 a month on shopping alone.
So I always wonder people who have like shopping addictions, where do you keep all of your stuff?
In your cult compound?
Yeah, right. Fair point.
Like along the base of Mount Fuji, there's plenty of room there, I think. So Fukunaga reportedly, this is an alleged number, obtained 60 billion yen from more than 10,000 people over a 13-year period, while he spent tons to enhance his own reputation as a religious leader. So long story short, there's this really bizarre moment in 1996 where he had one of those, what do you call it when you raise money?
Fundraiser?
Like a benefit.
He was selling world's finest chocolate.
No, he was in Washington, D.C. at the Sheraton Hotel, and he somehow found a distant relative of Mahatma Gandhi and had him come.
Interesting.
And they awarded Bill Clinton with this
what?
With this made up award. It was like the Mahatma Gandhi Award of World Peace or something.
And Bill Clinton was the recipient.
I can't confirm. Yes, he was the recipient. But I can't confirm if he came or not. With what's going on with the Clintons, I wouldn't be surprised if he was there.
Yeah, I don't know.
But long story short, there was a huge, I don't know if it's like feedback. There was a reaction to this, and Hokunaga was eventually sentenced to 12 years in prison for what he did to the people, the money he took for himself. 15 senior cult members were also charged with mass fraud. 9 of the 15 were given verdicts, but all of them were convicted. Right, Apollo? Right? See, even he's upset. I could see our cats being like cult leaders.
Oh, for sure.
At least Apollo would be. Starbuck would be kind of like, yeah, okay.
She would be the one selling the essential oil.
Let's have a party and we can put our feet in foot baths and I'll just drop some essential oils in there. But it's just something hyper addictive and you just keep buying it. Gotcha. Prosecutors charge these people with practicing medicine without a license. And actually, Fukunaga might be facing manslaughter charges.
Oh, that took a turn.
Yeah. Allegedly, when he would bring recruits to his Mount Fuji base camp for the week-long session, 4 recruits died from rigorous initiation rites Like they just couldn't hang. Like what on earth would you do with their feet? Like it's probably more than just feet stuff then I guess at that point.
I have to imagine it's probably close to, I don't know, like some torture tactics or something.
Potentially. I mean, I have no idea. So like this being in Japan kind of links into my other cult that I'm going to get to at the end of the pod. Well, like legal experts say that in particular Japan and their criminal system is ill-equipped to combat the cult phenomenon. So that might lead to some explanation of my other cult that we'll get to later. But yeah, that is the foot cult.
So it's basically a guy with a foot fetish who took it a little bit too far, ended up killing a couple of people, made millions or billions? Billions. And now he's in jail because of his foot fetish. So
yeah, and there it is. What are your cults? I'm super excited and apprehensive to hear the wonderful things that other people have done around the world.
I am happy to say neither of my two cults are in the U.S. because I feel like maybe we just need a break from U.S. cults right now. But this first one that I am covering is called the Suidlanders, and this is what we heard about in the show Dark Tourist on Netflix. First of all, fantastic show. Highly recommend if you have not checked it out.
If you need a pairing with it, like a food pairing, it's Culver's. Culver's is the pairing you have with Dark Tourist.
Yeah, it gives your insides the hug that it needs. All right, so during this segment of the Suidlanders on Dark Tourist, my jaw was pretty much dropped the entire time. I thought that this group was absolutely insane and that they were absurd. I will preface all of this with there's a lot in South Africa's past that makes this a very complex issue. And when you read more into the past and then you learn about this group, the pieces start to come together a little bit. But within this segment of the show, if you were to go watch the episode, there is role playing to the extreme. Like hundreds of people come together for this, and they do fake kidnappings and they do fake carjackings. There's some blatant racism from some of the members. It's absolutely nuts. But again, if you know about South Africa's past, before this, I generally knew about the apartheid. Reading some of the things that I read over the last few days about South Africa's past were pretty horrifying. Things that they intentionally, I think, keep out of history classrooms. So, and I will say, just because I have put the pieces together in my mind of the history and of this group, that absolutely does not mean that I'm condoning or agreeing with this group. I think they're absolutely batshit insane, but I don't know, just do a little bit of research on your own, watch that episode and kind of form your own opinion. Yeah. However, what?
Yeah, just kind of going off of the craziness of apartheid and things that came after it even. When was it abolished? 1991 or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I read the Trevor Noah book, Born a Crime, mm-hmm. where he was talking about growing up in South Africa. He's on TV every day now on Comedy Central with the Daily Show, right? Great. He's a great comedian, but he talked about being raised in South Africa and the issues of being of mixed descent. His mother being Xhosa and his father being Swiss. So definitely, and after watching that episode with you the other day, they just take it to a whole nother level. But you do, to a certain degree, understand the tension that they have.
Yeah. So again, not agreeing, not condoning at all. All right. So the Suidlanders. At the group's core, they were founded in 2006. At a very high level, they could be described as a right-wing ethno-nationalist survivalist group. And they claim to have 130,000 members, but it's very much worth noting that there's no official records kept. So maybe that number is inflated a little bit.
Maybe it's to kind of fluff a little bit. Like, oh yeah, we're here. There's tons of us.
Yeah, probably. So their beliefs are based on, I'm going to butcher this, so anyone from South Africa, I'm very sorry. Their beliefs are based on Boer Siener van Rensburg, and he's considered to be a prophet by son, but he was a peasant farmer who served as a spiritual advisor to several of the Boer military leaders during the Second War, who they predicted to have this like massive civil insurrection, and that this insurrection would lead to an alleged race war in South Africa. So their founder and their current leader is someone by the name of Gustav Muller, but the face of the group is a man named Simon Roach. He's done, quote, tours and interviews in the US, including with people like Alex Jones, which is not shocking at all. And it's really interesting because he even attended the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. There's a picture of him like smiling ear to ear, front and center. I think wearing like a hard hat.
Is that the one where the white guys were carrying the torches?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one where they were saying Jews will not replace us. So as I had already mentioned, the Suidlanders believe that a race war or a general civil war is on the horizon as a result of a white genocide. And this belief of white genocide is very closely aligned with this group in general. If this topic at all interests you, would heavily encourage you to go do some of your own research on that, because I will not really be touching on that in this topic. But like most doomsday groups, this group believes an entire collapse of infrastructure will happen and that they will have to evacuate from their urban areas with all of the other white South Africans. And they're going to go to some rural spots that they're going to evacuate to.
Oh, boy.
All right, so here's something that's really interesting. You hear a lot of this and you have some ideas in mind, right, about maybe what these people are like. But they want to make note that they distance themselves from neo-Nazi groups.
Oh, great.
Yeah, no. So totally different. Very similar beliefs, totally different. But it's worth noting that the Suidlanders have received donations from a variety of far-right and white nationalist groups, like the Neo-Confederate League of the South, Identity Europa founder Nathan D'Amigo, and American Vanguard. But totally not neo-Nazis.
It's just not good company to be in.
No, not at all.
But thankfully, they said they're not Nazis.
Yeah, no, not Nazis. So it's interesting because they said that the difference between neo-Nazis and this group is because they see themselves as the victims, which goes back to the whole idea of white genocide. So that's why they say that they're not part of neo-Nazi groups. Like also previously mentioned, this group conducts training in all aspects of civil defense throughout the year. And the training includes logistics, operations, control of refugees, first aid, firearms training, and communication. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say that the episode of this is absolutely batshit. Like, people are like faking getting kidnapped, they're faking getting carjacked, and like they go through all of these role play scenarios in like the event of what to do. But also, oh my god, do you remember that part? I don't know if I should ruin it.
What, the part about the dog?
No, so this family that's interviewed is basically saying, oh yeah, if we leave, the dogs can't come with us. And the docuseries host was like, what, so you're just gonna leave them here? And the woman was like, no, we would put them down before we go.
But the birds.
They'll
bring the birds, though.
No, I was gonna say the part where they're doing this like car caravan.
It's so bad.
It's very interesting, but they're doing this car caravan, and again, like this entire group is white, And as they're doing this caravan, there's one black man walking.
Oh my God.
And
Yes.
this part was not actually role playing. They were actually fearing that this person was part of some sort of like
uprising.
Yes.
Like this was the start.
Yes.
It's like they knew we were doing the test run and now they're here. It was just some guy going for a walk.
Yeah. Like insane. I don't know. The whole thing is nuts. But some other things that I would point out, there is this official from a South African intelligence agency who is not allowed to talk publicly about this, so the source is obviously not named, but the online strategy and propaganda of the Suidlanders uses the same tactics as terrorist groups for recruiting members, according to this person. Again, this group claims that their membership is more than 130,000 strong, but the source also says that that figure is likely inflated, but also impossible to verify because they do not keep membership lists.
That's to keep them off the grid.
Yeah, exactly.
Very smart. There's probably like 50 of them.
Like the ones that we saw in the episode, and that's everybody.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. That's not to say, though, that the government does not find this group to be a threat. So they are concerned enough about the group that they have undercover agents embedded inside of the group, according to the source. I would say from all of the research I was doing, there's a lot of complicated issues with this group and how I didn't want to get super political with this episode. So I left some of these details out, but a lot of these ideologies of like white victimhood are trickling more into other countries like the US and the UK. And you can even see like there are right-leaning news pundits in the US who have taken a lot of these ideologies and they've put them out into the world, basically. And
oh, absolutely.
That's kind of what you're seeing as a change from 2016 on. The whole concern, like from a lot of the governments that are seeing these ideologies, is that this is pretty much just a successful ploy by the group, basically to like garner sympathy. If that last part interests you at all and you are interested in the political aspect of everything, highly recommend going to check it out. The information is pretty easily accessible on your own. Just did not want to include it here. But yeah, I highly recommend people go watch the Dark Tourist episode where he goes to South Africa. See this in action because like truly my words do not do this justice.
It's like a cringe track that just keeps getting worse and worse, and the reality is that it's actually a real thing, so that makes it like top level cringe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean during this episode you can see that like the fear that they have is very real, you know, like even as they're role playing this or like practicing their evacuation plan, they're doing this prayer before they go, and the mom just like bursts into tears because she's like, this could happen at any day, any time. Like they're just fully expecting it. And I think living on edge and fear like that your entire life has to be exhausting.
I bet. I mean, I definitely looked at their website and it's just, this country says it's happening. This country says it's going to happen. This country, they're just quoting stuff, and the internet, you know, is, I don't know how reliable it entirely is. Yeah, if you go to their webpage, Suidlanders.org, you are welcomed by unrelenting videos of violence, explosions, large crowds, throwing rocks. Everything's on fire. Everything's terrible. Watching it right now, actually. There's people on the ground. There's people hitting each other. There's garbage everywhere. Civil unrest. And there is a undeniable, how would I say this? All the video footage is very similar in one or two ways.
Explain.
Nah. Oh, there's a truck on fire. This is great footage. And then it's like an emergency plan initiative. Enter site. And their logo, it's a white teardrop.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And Another part of South Africa's history that I didn't really touch on a lot because I think it's a very complicated issue, and I will fully admit I don't really know all the details. I don't know all the history, so it's not exactly my place to try to pretend to teach somebody about it. But I know that a lot of what I read kind of pointed back to farm murders in South Africa, where farmers are just being brutally murdered, and it's not even like it's robberies. Like, in a lot of cases, nothing is really being taken. I think people look at that and use that as ammo for their idea of white genocide. But yeah, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to pretend to be. So I highly recommend you go and do your own research. But yeah, that's the Suidlanders. All right. So speaking of white.
No.
My second cult is called The Family.
The Family.
The Family. It sounds so wholesome. So this group is also known as the Great White Brotherhood. And that's, yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is very bizarre. So they're an Australian New Age group. And for anyone who does not know, New Age is essentially like a broad movement that's characterized by like an alternative approach to traditional Western culture. Usually there's some sort of interest in spirituality in there, environmentalism, etc. This group was formed in the mid-1960s by a yoga teacher named Anne Hamilton Byrne, who was actually born Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards.
Did you say a yoga teacher?
A yoga teacher.
They know everything, don't they?
They do. So the family focuses on teaching a mixture of Christianity and Hinduism with other Eastern and Western religions. And the basis of their entire philosophy is that Hamilton Byrne was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ and a living God. I just want to know, like, how they decided that. How was that found out?
What I want to know is how many people think they are Jesus Christ reincarnated?
Probably a lot.
I want to see if there's a movie about this where it's like 3 or 4 people in the movie think they're Jesus. And I think one of them might be Zach Galifianakis.
Do they like duke it out in the parking lot?
I don't know. I really want to watch it though.
So how the family got started. So Anne Hamilton Byrne meets someone named Rainer Johnson, and they found the family in 1961. So Rainer was hosting regular meetings of a religious and philosophical discussion group led by Anne. And it was at his home in Ferny Creek in the, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher this because I'm not great with Australian names, Dandenong ranges on the eastern outskirts of Melbourne. Australians, I'm sorry. But the strange thing is this group consisted largely of middle-class professionals. It was estimated that a quarter were nurses and other medical personnel, and that many were recruited by Johnson, and then he would refer them to Anne's yoga classes. See, you see the wheel spinning here.
Starting to see it move. Yeah.
Okay. So fast forward a little bit. During the late 1960s and the early 1970s, so there's this hospital called New Haven, and it's a private psychiatric hospital. So New Haven is owned and operated by Marion Villemek, who is also a member of the family. And it turns out many of the staff and the psychiatrists there are also members.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
There is a pattern.
I'm not sure what it is yet, though.
There is a pattern. So patients at New Haven were treated with LSD, and the hospital was used to recruit new members from among the patients. They also used the hospital to administer LSD to group members under the watch of 2 psychiatrists who were part of the family.
This reminds me of like how the old psychiatric hospitals used to work. Mm-hmm. Let's drill a hole in their head. Let's throw some drugs in their system. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, this hospital definitely did lobotomies at some point. I saw it mentioned a couple of times.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a little disturbing.
It's barbaric.
In 1986, New Haven closes, and it's the subject of a lawsuit. And this lawsuit is brought by family members of deceased group members.
Ooh.
Anne wins the case,
Good for them.
unfortunately. Anne wins the case.
Oh, shit.
No.
I thought you said the family. Oh,
No.
you said the family won.
No, I said Anne won the case.
Oh, that's terrible.
All right, so the hospital shuts down for good in 1992, and creepily enough, it later reopened with absolutely no ties to the past, but it's a nursing home now. New Haven Hospital closes, and the next property we are going to talk about is the Kai Lama property. This is a rural property. It's referred to as the Uptop, and it's at Taylor Bay on Lake Eildon, near the town of Eildon, Victoria.
When you said that name, I thought it was going to be like, what's up, dog?
Oh, like some kind of pun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Nope. Here's where shit gets a little bit crazy. Between 1968 and 1975, Anne Hamilton Byrne acquires 14 infants and young kids.
How the hell do you acquire that number of infants?
I almost felt like the word adopt felt a little bit better to say there, but
Acquire.
That's
a different whole connotation of acquisition.
Mm-hmm. I mean, these adoptions were pretty shady.
This whole thing's pretty shady.
This whole thing is super
The whole
shady.
episode is quite shady, so this is just par for the course.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Anne gets these 14 kids with her partner, Bill. And I didn't have a ton of information on Bill, but you'll hear a little bit more about him later. And some of these children were natural-born members of the group. So they were like children that were members, actual children. And then I have this nice quote here from Wikipedia describing some of the shadiness of the adoptions. Quote, others had been obtained through irregular adoptions arranged by lawyers, doctors, and social workers within the group who could bypass the normal processes. The children's identities were changed using false birth certificates or deed poll, all being given the surname Hamilton Byrne and dressed alike, even to the extent of their hair being dyed uniformly blonde.
Oh.
Yeah, so remember how that group is also known as the White Brotherhood? Yeah.
I'm trying to see a trend.
Naturally, with 14 kids, you're not sending them to public school. You're not sending them to a private school, certainly. So all these kids are kept secluded from the outside world, and they're homeschooled on the property. And here's the really creepy part. All of these kids are told that Anne Hamilton Byrne is their biological mother, and that the other adults in the group were like their aunties and uncles.
It's like one big old family.
Yeah.
Me and my bros, we all got the same haircut. You know what that means? We're in a cult.
Yeah. Right. The kids were not given access to the outside world. They were disciplined, in like very loose quotes, with severe beatings and starvation diets. And some of the kids who have spoken out about this said that these like disciplined beatings and starvation diets a lot of the times came for like almost no reason. I have another quote here. Are you ready?
No. Wait. Yes.
It's a lot of drug names that I'm not going to be able to pronounce very well. So, also from Wikipedia, the children were frequently dosed with the psychiatric drugs fluphenazine, diazepam, haloperidol, chlorpromazine, I'm not gonna bother with the rest of these. They're drugging these kids a shitload.
I think you have a future in those direct from the drug makers commercials. You could be the announcer. You can be that
we'll
one.
See.
You know, like I'll be on the commercial, like jumping rope, holding a kite, like laughing and running, while you're like, symptoms may include bleeding from the eyeballs, sensitive nipples, and your toes fall off.
And your toes fall off.
And then those guys from Hono Haga are like, no.
Hey, if you send us your fallen off toes, we'll send you 50 yen.
We'll send you a sticker.
All right, so Also from the same quote, on reaching adolescence, they were compelled to undergo an initiation involving LSD. While under the influence of the drug, the child would be left in a dark room alone, apart from visits by Hamilton Byrne or one of the psychiatrists from the group.
While they're tripping on LSD?
Yes, they would be left alone.
That's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, that's I've never done LSD. I've never taken LSD. But from what I have heard from, it was big in the 70s, right?
I wasn't there. I wouldn't know.
That's a good point. Neither of us were. Yeah, I just can't imagine doing that on my own. So fast forward again a little bit. So police came to the property in 1983 in search of a missing girl named Kim Halm, and she was 10 when she went missing. Her mother was a member of the family, and her father went to the police to get his daughter back. And in very cult-like fashion, when it goes to court, two of Anne's followers lie in the court proceedings in order to make the dad look bad. And they ultimately decide that her followers lied, and Kim's mother is ordered to return her daughter. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Insert cops theme song here.
I hear it.
I hear it. It's probably stuck in your head too now. The cops begin an intervention, and they begin this intervention because Sarah Hamilton Byrne, who is an adopted daughter of Anne's, is expelled from the group in 1987 because of arguing and rebellious behavior, which basically is like any normal teenager. So you can see the standards are very high. Sarah is instrumental in getting the attention of the police, and after she goes to the police, they start to investigate Anne and the Kai Lama property, and a raid ultimately takes place on the property Friday, August 14th in 1987, and all of the children were removed from the premises. I have another quote here. After the raid in 1987, Anne Hamilton Byrne and her husband William, Bill, remained outside Australia for the next 6 years. Operation Forest, an investigation involving police in Australia, the UK, and the US, resulted in their arrest in June 1993 by the FBI in the town of Hurleyville in the Catskills in New York. They were extradited to Australia and charged with conspiracy to defraud and to commit perjury by falsely registering the births of 3 unrelated children as their own triplets, charges that were later dropped. Elizabeth Whitaker, wife of the psychiatrist Howard Whitaker, was their co-defendant. The Hamilton Byrnes pleaded guilty to the remaining charge of making false declaration and were fined $5,000 each. The conspiracy charges against Whitaker was dropped, and she was ultimately convicted of falsely obtaining nearly $23,000 between 1983 and 1987. All of that, and the only thing that happens to Anne and her husband are that they're both fined $5,000.
Don't make a cult again. Little slap
Just
on the
a little
wrist.
Slap on the wrist. Fast forward again, we're going to the late 90s and the 2000s. So Sarah writes a book called Unseen, Unheard, Unknown, and I think a lot of this Wikipedia article that I used as a source is taken from her book. And luckily, Sarah generally seems to go on as a successful woman. She studies medicine, she becomes a qualified doctor, and she also learned that she had been adopted and eventually met her biological mother. So that kind of worked out nice for her.
That's heartwarming.
Besides the trauma of being in a cult when you're younger, but
Of course.
seems like things got better for her.
Yeah.
Going back to Bill. Bill, Anne's husband, is on his deathbed in 2001, and Sarah goes to see him. And at this point, Anne makes her first public appearance since being convicted. All right, fast forward again a little bit more. 2009. Sarah is taking the initiative to see Anne in her compound in Victoria. A little bit more, 2013. Anne is in a nursing home in Melbourne, and she's close to death with dementia. And this causes a huge power struggle within the family about who her successor is. And just as recently as 2019, Anne passed away. And I couldn't find any information about who actually took over in the family, but it kind of blew my mind that this is still around, just out in the open.
Who's the successor?
Yeah, I would love to know. So, successor to Anne in the family, if you're listening to this, let us know. Raise a hand. But yeah, this cult was pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, cults in general are wild, but this one is, the haircuts got me. It was the haircuts for me.
I think
The hair
I would
coloring.
rather take the foot fetish essential oil selling guy over someone who's pretty much falsifying adoption papers, making all of the kids look uniformly white and blonde, and also like the drugging and of children and killing of people.
Right. Of course, those small details.
So that's the family. There's a lot more details in here. It's a heavily detailed cult. This is very high level. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the family, there's a lot of information on the internet that I did not really include in here.
Okay, time for mine. My last one. Wrapping it up with a very bizarre cult that is still quite active across many continents and just in general very bizarre. I don't even know where to begin with it. It's a movement for sure. It touches on religion, kinda, sorta, science for sure, and like consciousness. If I were giving like an elevator pitch, it's kind of like Star Wars meets the Ten Commandments.
I'm gonna have to hear more.
Yeah, this is a UFO religion.
Ooh, I'm sold. I'm in.
We're talking about Raelism, which I'm probably going to say realism, but it's like Raelism. The guy in charge is named Rael, his life alone is insanely fascinating. This was a religion founded in 1974, and it's going strong today, and their motto is, science is our religion, religion is our science.
Yep, crystal clear to me.
Yeah, they've got about 100,000 followers and are reasonably popular on YouTube, with videos going up regularly since 2015. Low-key, a decent following on YouTube, too. The videos going back about 4 or 5 years have upwards of 22,000 views.
All right, so I'm just going to have to say, if this group was founded in the 70s and there's only 100,000 members, and the Suidlanders were started in 2006, I don't know. I think I'm going to maybe question the 130,000 members they have. I don't know.
Correct. Well, that number comes as of 2018, the 100,000.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
But yeah, it's a UFO religion, which basically, if I have to explain it, it's a religion that requires the existence of extraterrestrials operating UFOs and an element of their belief. And this is described as one of the most consolidated UFO groups internationally active today. But wait, there's more.
Tell me more, Billy Mays.
Realists see the Bible as a central part of their belief system. Like, it's meant to be taken like kind of literally, which I know is a facet of a lot of Christian sects, but this is an atheistic religion.
Okay, I'm getting a little lost here.
In the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, they refer to God as like Elohim, or like Yahweh. Realism acknowledges Elohim as the creator of human life, but Elohim is not the God of us.
In that religion.
No, it's like it believes that Elohim may have been historically mistaken for gods, but are really just aliens.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I watched an interview with this man who was like so full of love and warmth and was like always smiling as he talked, with that like 1,000-yard stare still though. But he said, he gave an example of the book of Genesis, which is, he says, is a literal, this really happened. So the complaint is that the book was written by primitive people who didn't really understand what the aliens were telling them. So the Elohim, not God, but the alien people, informed the humans that before they landed on Earth, they installed satellites which are flying around the Earth. So in first chapter, verse 2 of Genesis, when it says the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, Raelian scholars would be like, yo, it's just satellites, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. God is not God. God does not exist. This is just aliens that came here to make us. And yeah, we're going to, you could, look, if we're going to get into like, it was satellites, that might explain why we have like similar shaped buildings across the world, you know, the pyramids and stuff. Aliens.
So what, basically these aliens are just playing Sims with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah. I almost got wooed to death.
Stop.
Throughout history, the Elohim have created 40 Elohim human hybrids who have served as prophets, meant to teach us and prepare humanity for the news about our ultimate origin and destiny. And you know what? Among those prophets, those hybrid prophets, we have the Buddha, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, and of course, Rael himself being the 40th and final prophet. The Elohim are said to be planning a future visit to complete their revelation and education of humanity. But not until humanity finds a way to harness our advances in science and technology to develop it in a way that gives us a peaceful ending. Then once that's achieved, the Elohim shall return to Earth and share their technology with humanity and usher in a pure utopia.
All right. So basically we're never going to see them.
I mean, theoretically, we might. I mean, they definitely have like a time frame that they're aiming for, where like if things don't quite get there by, I think it's like 2035, they've got protocol for that. That's the belief in a nutshell. So what about the founder, Rael, the last prophet? He was born Claude Maurice Marcel Vorelhon. He was born September 30th in 1946, and he was raised in Vichy-Allier, France. After stints of boarding schools, Claude ran away and became a street performer in Paris. He was discovered on the streets by a producer, and he later became a radio pop star. This is a very short-lived career because his sponsor committed suicide in 1970.
Oh my God. Okay. Well,
he actually, if you go to his Wikipedia page, he has a number of singles that are out there. Before founding Raelism, he was a sports journalist focusing on sports cars. He had his own magazine. It was called Autopop. I think at the end it only had like 34 volumes. His first being released in 1971, and it ended soon after he had his first alien visitation. This was December 13th, 1973. He was hiking through this French like volcanic crater. It has a name. I'm not even going to bother pronouncing it. But an extraterrestrial being came out of a craft that had descended from the sky and told him in French that he had come for the sole purpose of meeting with him. Rael said that he was given a message by this alien, and it told him that it was his mission to pass this message to the people of Earth. And so he wrote his first book. It was called The Book Which Tells the Truth. And the book states that advanced human scientists from another planet with 25,000 years of scientific advances created life on Earth through DNA manipulation. Okay? And these scientists were originally called Elohim, or those who came from the sky. He wrote that some 40 prophets in Earth's history were sent by Elohim, but their messages were distorted by humans because the difference of intelligence between the aliens and us being primitive, kind of going back to we have satellites. Oh, you're floating on the water. He said that he was given the mission of informing the world of humanity's origins in anticipation of the return of these extraterrestrials by building an embassy in neutral territory.
I feel like I'm getting sold here.
Many people were sold on this, actually. He said that certain mysteries were explained to him based on new interpretations of sacred texts, such as the Bible. He said on October 7th, 1975, he was contacted by one of the Elohim who took him to the home planet to meet Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad. He met them on their planet. That's not all. When they took him aboard their spaceship to go to the home planet, he was offered 6 biological women robots with which he could have sex with.
Okay.
He saw the Elohim create his clone, and he was taught the techniques of sensual meditation. In his second book, which is titled Extraterrestrials Took Me to Their Planet.
Yeah, he really just gets to the point of all of these titles.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
In this book, Rael describes how harmonious and peaceful beings these people are. They're free of money, they're free of sickness, they're free of war. And when he comes back, he devotes himself to the task he said he was given by his father, who was an alien named Yahweh. So you're seeing those very deep ties to the Bible there with the, Elohim, Yahweh. Shortly after a first public conference, Rael founded MADEC, a group of people interested in helping him in his task, which later became the International Raelian Movement. So what's going on with Raelism now? Well, they believe that we are in our end days. And we have been in our end days since the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, read the room.
Those bombings back in World War II put our species on a path which we now must choose whether to use science and technology to enhance our life or to bring about our end through nuclear annihilation. And Rael says, if humans successfully get through this present age, we will live in an era of technology in which society will be tolerant and sexually liberated. We're going to get into the weird sex part later. Rael claimed that he was destined to help lead humanity away from its path of destruction. And so he says, if humans can maneuver through these awful times and can enter into peace, that will trigger the return of the Elohim, who will usher in the utopia that he was promised earlier. And the previous 39 prophets will return, and with the help of Rael, the 40th, the United Prophets will complete this movement. Before that happens, a lot has to happen, though. So Rael stated that humanity has to build an embassy for the Elohim prior to their arrival, and that it must include a large enough landing pad for the spaceship.
Wow, okay. Demanding divas. Did it give the dimensions?
I don't know how big it is. I mean, probably big enough. He said, furthermore, it had to be located on internationally recognized neutral territory so as to not indicate favor towards any one particular nation state.
Okay, so they're going to go to, like, what, Switzerland?
You know, actually, I think their current headquarters is in Geneva.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, typical Switzerland.
Yep.
And so he originally sought permission to build in Israel. And he explained this by reference to how the ancient Israelites were once in contact with the Elohim. They think that the people coming from Israel, the Jewish people, are actually like human alien hybrids. Anyways, it got shot down like immediately. Once it was shot down, he stated that we could maybe build the third temple, which is a reference to a Jewish prophecy. Kind of like, see, this is legit, guys. I'm going to do this. So once they said, no, this isn't the third temple. This isn't it. You're not the one. He goes, all right. So he proposed building in Jordan. No. Syria? No. Lebanon? No. Egypt? No. They're all like, no, we're not giving you a dime. You can't have any of our land. This is not a thing. Some of the higher leaders in the Raelian movement suggested that Hawaii be an alternative. And in 1998, Rael said, "Oh yeah, I actually got a revelation from the Elohim who said that would be a great place to go."
Yeah, I'm sure.
So obviously it's 2020. There's no super advanced alien race giving us technology or anything.
Not that we know of.
Right,
Maybe they're among us.
Looking at you, FBI guys. They said that should the Elohim not arrive by 2035, the Raelians will have to adapt to the new circumstances in which their end scenario remains unfulfilled. What that means? I don't know. Where does this take us now, though? Once on Earth, Rael claims that the Elohim will share their advanced technology and understanding of science with humanity that will give us unprecedented joy, happiness, health, etc. He teaches that the Elohim's arrival will herald in new, improved politics and essentially will lead us to a geniocracy, which is essentially the rule of geniuses.
Well, it looks like you're going to be moving up in power.
Right, I like Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
So
you have to have a very high IQ to understand it.
yeah, clearly. I mean, I should be in Mensa. All of the ideas of the geniocracy are expressed in his 5th book, Geniocracy. According to the system, Geniocracy, only those who are 50% more intelligent than the average person will be allowed to rule. And this proposed system bears a lot of similarities actually to things that Plato recommended back in his work Republic. In this future, Rael says that humanity will be able to travel beyond the Earth to colonize other planets. He claims that robots will assume all menial tasks of humans, and we will be able to devote all of our time to pleasurable pursuits.
You know, I think I've seen a show where they make robots to do shit that we don't want to do. I've seen a couple of shows like that. Or movies. I'm not down with it. I'm not down with it.
So we have robots doing all of our jobs so we can do pleasurable stuff. He argued that there would be robots that would serve as sex slaves, akin to those that Rael saw and got to engage with on the spaceship on his way to the planet to see Buddha, Muhammad, and Jesus. He says that a single world currency would be introduced, and it would then lead eventually to an abolition of money, and a unified world calendar will also be adopted. This kind of explains, when I was watching his videos, I watched probably like 7 or 8 of them. They all had these really wonky dates on YouTube. It'd be like September 22nd, 2020, which I think was his most recent video. The date in the title of the video was something entirely different. Now, with this really booming movement, there's a ton of controversies. I'm going to go over just a handful of them, one of them being human cloning. There's this Canadian cloning company called Clonaid, which has very close ties to Raelism. In 2002, Clonaid claimed to have created the first human clone, whom they named Eve. Outside of major ethical issues here, there is actually very little proof that they actually were able to do it. Clonaid has a number of international branches where they have different names, but something that's very bizarre about this is one of the higher ranking scientists at Clonaid, a French chemist and Raelian leader named Brigitte Bosselier, testified under oath that there was a cloned child born outside of the U.S. and is living in Israel. And they're kind of like, bet.
Yeah, Pixar didn't happen.
They wanted to do a DNA test on this person. However, Clonaid did not present demonstrative evidence that the child actually existed. And Bosselier just said, "Oh no, she'll come to the U.S. and she'll do the DNA tests. We got you." And so when the time came for them to bring Eve to the U.S., Bosselier just came back and said, "Oh no, she saw a pediatrician and her mother's in good condition, but she refused to mention the location of the surrogate birth, the testing lab, or even the mother's home or her name. The mother was said to be 31 years old with an infertile husband. And cloning is actually a pretty massive part of Raelism. They reject the existence of an ethereal soul, which would survive like when you die. So like you die, you go to heaven. They don't believe in that kind of eternal life. They instead argue that the only hope for immortality is through science. And so it's more of a, you're cloned back to life. So if you die, you get cloned. He claimed that the Elohim will clone and thus recreate the physical dead people, but only those whom they feel merit reincarnation. So it's a conditional immortality. Pretty much immortality for the minor good and oblivion for the majority who don't meet their moral standards, which are super blurry in regards to what is good and bad. Going back into the Bible for a reference, when Jesus was crucified and was brought back to life, they claimed that it was the Elohim doing it, and he did die, and they just threw him back in, the clone.
I mean, what's the proof that it wasn't them?
It seems for every question you have about this, Rael just has an answer. It was cloning. Raelians also believe that the deceased individuals can be cloned so that they can be put on trial for crimes in their previous lives. Guess who Rael wants to bring back to life?
Is it all the generals from World War II that were gassing people in Nazi concentration camps?
He's mentioned by name Adolf Hitler. He wants to bring Hitler back to life.
Yeah, that one.
That one.
Yeah.
That one. Who, just a very bad dude. He says that the Raelians will bring back Hitler and put him on trial for all of his crimes. And speaking of the Nazis, the sigil, the logo, I don't know what to call it, of Raelism, you guys gotta look it up. It's a Star of David, but inside the Star of David is a swastika, which I don't think you can put two symbols together and have it be more like perverse.
Yeah, it's a very strange logo.
They have a secondary logo where they remove the swastika and just kind of put like a little like swirly swirl. It's like, oh, that's the galaxy.
Interesting.
But the main logo definitely has a swastika in it. Super sketchy. Not only do they want to bring back Hitler, they also want to bring back the people who brought about 9/11 and put them on trial for what they did.
That's going to be a whole ass other conversation.
I mean, there's a whole nother thing there. He has it out especially for the terrorists who flew the planes into the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, because they have a massive hatred for suicide. When the Heaven's Gate cult had their mass suicide in 1997, the Raelian Church, we'll call it, I guess, was among one of the new religions that issued a press release that entirely condemned suicide due to the fact that the Raelians seek to be a religion that continues life through cloning. So suicide kind of ends that cycle. The Raelians seek to both genetically clone individuals, rapidly accelerate growth of the clone to adulthood, install in them nanotechnology. Rael told lawmakers that banning the development of human cloning was comparable to outlawing advances in medicine such as like antibiotics, blood transfusions, and vaccines. Like, damn, like he wants that bad. He wants cloning to be the new way that we produce. In fact, the Elohim, according to him, don't actually have the ability to reproduce sexually, and that they are just cloned. Another controversy that had followed Rael is his focus on sensual meditation. Not the fact that you can't do that kind of stuff. It's the fact that he was focusing on like children. So the Swiss government authorities responded to their views about meditation with the fear that supporting liberalized sex education for children would teach youngsters how to obtain sexual gratification in an uneducated way, and that might lead to increase in sexual abuse of underage children. Speaking of children, allegedly during a tour through Asia, Rael married a 16-year-old girl, and though he claims to have divorced her immediately after he married her, and it was done just to get through borders, they allegedly continued living together after the marriage and divorce. The final controversial thing that I think, I mean, there's a ton, but this thing is called the Order of Angels, and this feels like the most cultish part of Raelism. According to Rael, the Elohim are much more feminine than humans, and Rael said something like the 10% most feminine women on Earth are 90% less feminine than the average Elohim. Well, whatever that means. In 1998, he claimed to receive another message being told to create a special group only for women in his movement. And these women would become the consorts of the Elohim after their arrival on Earth. The Order of Angels was kept entirely separated from the rest of the movements. The living quarters were entirely off limits to anybody who was not an angel. So what do you do when you get too old as an angel? When you get too old, you become a gold ribbon angel. You lose the ability to be a welcomer to the Elohim when they come, but you can definitely help groom the other young women who are going to take your place. And there you have it. There's a lot more behind this, and if you're really curious and you want to explore the teachings of Rael, you can go to www.raelacademy.org. So there you are, everybody. A number of really, really interesting, some worse than others, some weird cults out there. There's way more, but these are the one we chose. If you have any cool cults that you've heard of that we didn't mention, go ahead and let us know.
You can let us know on your social media of choice between Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Or if social media is not your thing, you can send us an email at boozedandconfusedpodcast@gmail.com. And if that doesn't do it for you, I don't really know what else to tell you. Maybe just tell us in a review or something.
I'm working on making a MySpace page, actually.
Is the foot fetish guy going to be in your top 8?
Oh, he's number 1 for sure.
So thank you so much again for joining us this week. If you liked this episode, if you like our podcast, please leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it is the best way that you could help us and support the podcast. If you take a screenshot and send it to us, we will send you your very own Boozed and Confused stickers for free.
Stay confused.
Bye.
Bye.